My name is Joanne and I am the founder of AboutOne.com. AboutOne.com is an online family management system, and it makes your calendar and contacts more useful to give you one place to manage all your precious memories and household information and paperwork. Basically makes a mum's life easier. My story is, a few years ago, multiple things happened to me at one point in time. So I always felt I was quite organised with my personal and household information. It was in filing cabinets, in Entourage, in Outlook, in Excel. But a few things happened to me in a short space of time that made me realise perhaps I wasn't quite as organised as I needed to be. So I sold a house, I made a capital gains, and I couldn't find the receipts, or I didn't have the receipts that I needed, and I wasted a lot of time trying to get them. I forgot a wedding anniversary. I had a basement flood because I hadn't maintained a boiler in the basement. And then everything else was very expensive cost-wise, but then there was something that happened that was an emergency for my child. So one day the telephone rang and it was a doctor, and he said, "My son is very sick." And so I ran out of the house, my cell phone and my car keys. As I was going up the hill, I saw an ambulance, and I thought, you know, please don't let that be for my son. When I got there, it was, and the paramedic needed all the health information, medication information, and I was so stressed at the time, I couldn't even remember his date of birth, let alone I couldn't access all the information, his medication information and his paperwork, because it was in my house that was locked. Fortunately, at that time, I was actually in SAP's original cloud technology team, where they trained us on cloud technology, strategy, scalability, security. And while I was in the training, I suddenly thought, aha, I can now develop an application that's fun, fast and easy, that I can enter this information in, and the system would organize my information for me, and then my information would be available for me in any challenge, not just an emergency. So that's why I developed AboutOne.com. An example of a smart girl's strength for me is passion. Clearly, when my son was sick, I had a passion to never have that happen again, and I never want it to happen to any other parent ever. And I think having that passion to fix a pain point that I felt and make it easier and help millions of other moms resonates with investors, with partners, with anybody I speak to. I think they recognize my passion. And because of that, I think they're more willing to help and help my company move forward. Advice I would give to other entrepreneurs, the first one is, when somebody says no, you need to hear maybe or come back later. Often they just need a little bit more time, and at least in my industry, sometimes they needed to have some time to absorb the question or the idea, and when I went back afterwards, they changed their mind, or even they called me and said, "Hey, I've changed my mind." So never take a no personally. I would say build that network. You never know who that person will introduce you to or what they'll think later on about your company. The second piece of advice I would give to an entrepreneur is fear. You shouldn't fear to start your company, and I think their biggest fear is to fail, and often I think people's biggest failure is just not to aim high enough or not to aim at all. And so I would say try and think, instead of what happens if I'm bad at this, or what happens if this goes wrong, try and think, what happens if this really succeeds, or what happens if this really works, because often it can, and it's just you haven't tried yet. What's next for AboutOne? It's very exciting. We are launching a version 2 with all integration to Google Calendars and Outlook calendars. We'll have full mobile, and we have lots of exciting partnerships happening. So 2012 is a very, very exciting 6 months for us.